Going on, man?
Man, I'm doing okay, man. How you doing?
Doing all right.
Man, you been watching the news lately, man?
I sure have.
What's your take, man? Like, what do you think of that? Like, the president rhetoric and, attacking the Somali community. Can you hear me well, though? Am I being heard loud and clear?
Yep. You're coming through loud and clear. Yeah. So I mean, it's I can tell that the man has not had a lot of interaction with the Somali community and doesn't really know like what Somali people are like. Obviously, has some negative stereotypes or somebody saying something in his ear about stuff that's been going on, but it's a bunch of you know kind of BS about.
Yeah, man, I was bothered, man, and actually hearing the United States of America president,
Yeah.
you know, speak of collective of community in that fashion where you blatantly and flagrantly you know um bringing target to community of people, and that has teachers, that has police members,
Right.
that have doctors, lawyers, nurses, people, hardworking people that every morning get up and go to work to serve their community, right?
Yep.
Not to mention the Somali members that's in the military. You know what I mean? So for a president to say they're not contributing to the growth of this country, for a president to use the words like, I want them gone, that was disheartening, man. That was disheartening. And remember, man, the kids, man, we have a lot of kids, that are Americans, that
Right.
don't know nothing but this country. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Those kids, the ones that are old enough to watch the news or to hear things like that, right? Can you imagine their, imagination and take hearing a president, single-handedly target, you know, um, your people, you know what I mean, in your community, and especially you, and say, hey, man, you're not contributing to this country. I
Right.
don't want you here. Um, man, that was just disheartening and mind-boggling, man.
Yeah, it's one of these things that has happened throughout American history. This country has had like very bad racist backlash to massive groups of immigrants, like when the Irish first started coming here, when the Chinese first started coming here, when the Italians first started coming here. This country has generally been very racist against like some of the newer waves of like immigrants from one place. But to hear it coming directly out of the mouth of the president is shameful and embarrassing. And I'm just like, I haven't known people in the Somali community for that long, honestly. But
Hmm.
since I have been interacting with the Somali community a lot more lately, like it's very apparent to me that we are all so much more alike than we are different. We all really, at the end of the day, just want the same things. Like, and yeah, anytime we other a group and say that everybody in this group isn't good or isn't helping or like he needs to come to Minnesota and see how much the Somali community contributes. I mean,
And yeah, first of all, man, like I'll be the first one to tell you, man. Every community, right, and every ethnicity has good and bad, right? Um, just like the same way that what I mean, like that is criminal white people, you know what I mean, and doctors and lawyers and teachers and armed forces, you know what I mean, and
yep,
military white people, you know, we similar, man. Like in our communities, um you know, I'm not excusing what happened, you know what I mean, and I'm definitely not saying a fraud didn't took place, right? Um, I'm definitely not saying, like those people, that partook in, fraud and that that were part of those, feeding our family and any other fraud that took place, you know, that they don't deserve, responsibility. I'm not saying that, and I'm not excusing any of their behavior, right?
right.
But you know, there is words that a president can say, and there is words that are actually very damaging, and more importantly, that actually, damaging to the future of community. So the words like they're not contributing to utter those words. That was just like, that was, man. That I don't even think he knows the meaning and how damaging words like that is to a community.
Right.
That is deflating. Can you imagine what a police member that wakes up every morning and puts on his uniform, to serve his community, what I mean, on the field hearing words like that? Is that service or not? The military Somali individuals, men and women that are serving this country, what I
Yep.
mean, and putting
Yep.
their lives on the line, you know, um, and that's just a small, percentage of so many other things that Somali community do for this country, to contribute, right? And actually, when you saying, man, like the Somali community, and we don't want them here, and and you going after us, you are getting us, like, can you take the opportunity to get to know us? Can you at least, like, give us the opportunity to, to give you and teach you what we are about, right? He never
Right.
stepped by, and then a lot of Somali people voted for him. A
Right.
lot of
Right.
Somali people, a lot of small business owners, and uh, entrepreneurs voted for him.
Yeah.
So, you know, um, man, I'm only thinking about our kids, man. The kids that have to grow up seeing this, the kids that actually, watching this, that are old enough to understand the words
Yeah.
that, and the rhetoric that he's saying, and more importantly, the effect that's gonna have on so many other, Americans that don't know or know little of the Somali community, right?
Yeah.
And now, cause he's the president, you know what I mean? So the president take has so much power that he affects certain people. Cause instantly they're like, hey, this is what the president take is when it
Yep.
comes to this community. So we could easily be targeted. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's a friction and divisiveness that you're creating that's unnecessary, right?
Right. And it's already
And
there's already been, like an increase on vandalism in mosques, and like I heard recently that there's been, like, very recently there's been mosques broken into and nothing's been taken, but like they suspect that the people are casing the place to figure out like how to get back in there to do something like burn the place down or something, and the president basically gives people permission. He incites people. You don't have to even tell them to do something. You just have to give them permission to say like these people are bad. Now they people are might act on that because like they think the president's right.
I wanna so I wanna, like, anybody that's ever listening or anybody that ever come across from this, I want them to take, you know, I want them to know this about my community. We came here seeking opportunity, right? Um, we came here seeking shelter. Most of us have been in this country close to, we approaching about, we close to 35 years right now of being in America, right? There are some that have been here longer than that, but like, if I had to take an estimation of like how long we've been here, I would say about 30 to 35 years, right?
Hmm.
And around that time, man, Somalia was going to World War, yeah, Civil War, and and things were rough. So most of us, um, where parents flee from the Somalia to refugee camps all across East Africa, right?
Yep.
Whether it was Nairobi, Kenya, or Tanzania, or close, countries that's around that area that's close to Somalia, Ethiopia,
Yep.
and things of that nature. And like, I give it to you, you know, a lot of us are causing a lot of, negative things, you know what I mean? And a lot of us currently, are, you know, being viewed and are a part of, a lot of crimes, a lot of things that are going on, right? But like also the media, you know what I mean, and the public at large, you know what I mean? Like especially when it comes to the media, they're not doing service or they doing disservice to our community when they're only interested in us when it's negative,
Right.
right?
Yep.
We don't get highlighted enough when it comes to positivity and when it comes to unity and when it comes to a lot of the good things that we do and a lot of the things that we're doing for this country and contributing to it, right? And a lot of us, are Americans, right?
Right.
Like a lot of us were born here.
Yep.
A lot of us, you know, are don't know nothing other than this country, right? I have nieces and nephews that were born here, that consider themselves Americans,
Right.
and sometimes, we take a jab and I'll be playing with them around and, and that conversation come up and man, they adamant about it. They Americans, right? So how do you tell those kids, or those young, people that, we don't even want to here,
Right. Yeah.
so and not only that, like that future opportunity that kind of really going to negate the Somali community. You know what I mean? Like for instance, if there was a entrepreneur individual, you know what I mean, or that was hiring people, you know what I mean, and then it was three, you know, other ethnicities and one Somali individual, you know what I mean. That person already is, you know, behind the eight ball because if this person doesn't know anything about those, communities, and the only thing that he ever heard from them is the president of the United States negatively, speaking of them, so like it's kind of like fair to assume that that person instantly mind gonna be viewing things different. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like so, it was disheartening to see that, man.
Yeah. I believe it. I mean,
Our communities. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say. I mean, I will say I don't always agree with him on everything, but I was actually relatively impressed with like Mayor Fry and Melvin Carter and even Brian O'Hara coming out and responding when they're saying like we aren't going to cooperate with this stuff. We have like Brian O'Hara, the chief of Minneapolis Police, was said we have
Yeah.
Somali officers on the force. We don't like they are just as good as anybody else. We don't treat them like they're less. Like they are welcome here. We want them here. Like, and that's the feeling that I get everywhere in the community of Minneapolis is like this is obviously coming from outside. It's not like the feeling here in the community in Minneapolis anyway.
Yeah, and so in our state, man, in our state of Minneapolis, I mean, Minnesota, we are united, and I'm glad you said that and you brought that up, man. Like I was very, moved to see Mr. Melvin Carter, Jacob Fry, Mr. Brian O'Hara, and so many other community members and leaders, actually, you know, go against this,
Yeah.
and that alone in itself, I'm sure gave a lot of people, man, hope, and more importantly, man, like, and felt, defended, right?
Yep.
Just hearing their support. And one thing about our state of Minnesota, man, we are united. We
Yep.
are united. Outsiders might not know us, but in the state of Minnesota, man, like our, people in Minnesota are very supportive anytime, ready like that.
Yep.
The topic of conversation, right? Our people in Minnesota, you know what I mean, know what we are, you know what I mean? And
Yep.
they know we have a bad apple and so many other good apples, just like any other community.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. We've got like as a community, we've got your back.